All right, ladies and dudes, I got a theory. I'm going to lay it on you next. Stay tuned. What's up, YouTube? It's this guy, Jeremy McDonald. Let me hear you say it. One of your very favorite people with Parkinson's. Of course, that's Jeremy, also known as J Mac, Jeremy Mac. Let's do this thing. All right, if you'd like to get a hold of me, my email, Facebook, and Instagram will be in the description below. Hope you check those out. All right, this one, I put a lot of thought into this one. This one's been rolling around in my brain probably for a year or so. I've kind of been waiting to kind of get it all straight in my head. And that is the question, why I got Parkinson's. Now, I know it ultimately does not matter why, but a curious mind wants to know. I've got a theory. I'm going to put it out there and see what you guys think. There's 4 contributing factors. I don't think it was just one thing. I think it was a lot of different things. First of all, I think it was my jacked up gene pool. That should be a band name, jacked up gene pool. Maybe just a corner of my gene pool. I did the 23andMe and I don't have any known genes related to young onset Parkinson's or even Parkinson's at all. I do have one great uncle that I've spoken about before who has squirrel. I'm out on my deck. Hope you can see it's a little cloudy out here, but I do have one great uncle who had Parkinson's, so one corner of my gene pool anyway is probably a contributing factor. I've also talked before about trying to get comfortable here. My dystonia is pretty, it might not look it, but I'm very tense right now. Maybe it's the subject matter. Hang with me. The next thing I think contributed, which was my exposure to pesticides and herbicides. I did a video about it. I worked at a plant nursery, spent the majority of my time eyeballs deep in shrubs, trees, anything green, mulch. I'm sure every bit of it was coated with pesticide or herbicide or something. I think that was strike number 2. I've got actually 4 strikes here, so I could bend the rules a little bit. Third factor, I think, and this is one that I have never really spoken about, and this is really touchy, so I'm going to try to be as non-descript as possible because I don't want to give anybody the wrong impression, but I grew up in a very small religious group. Very small. All my friends went to the same little church. Half my relatives went to that little church. I would say 75 to 85% of everybody in my life went to this church. In my mid-20s, me and my wife, who I met through the church, there was one good thing that came out of it. We decided that we kind of wanted to step out and try our own thing. We were just kind of not real happy with the way things were going there, and we made the mistake, or I made the mistake anyway, of thinking I could walk away and keep all my friends there. Well, it quickly devolved into very bitter, personal, just bizarre stuff. And I swear that was one of the darkest times of my life. Would I have done it over again? Absolutely. I would have shriveled up and died had I stayed in that environment. But I lost most of my friends, most of my family, at least contact with them. They didn't die, but I was just completely cut off. So me and my wife had to basically up and move a few towns over, one or 2 towns over, start up our life again. And it took about 5 years to get through the process, at least initially, what had happened. Very traumatic time for me. I was very sheltered. I didn't have a lot of exposure to the outside world, and to suddenly be thrust out into it without your friends, your network of friends who you thought were there for you, and your family who you thought would always be there for you. There's repercussions that go on to this day from that situation. So I think that was the third one. Probably the most dramatic part was the stress, the emotional, and just the horrible feeling of isolation. It was like they circled the wagons and we couldn't get back through, and it was one of the darkest times of my life. And then what I think really kind of was the final straw, or the final nail in my proverbial Parkinson's coffin, was after about 5 years, I decided to go back into music, or actually try to seriously pursue music. By serious, I mean like weekend band, like weekend warrior stuff. and I stumbled upon the most talented group of musicians I've ever known. Up to that point, I'd played in church a few times, did some parties, some garage band stuff, but never really, I guess, really performed to the level of what was going to be expected of me with these groups. I don't know how. This drummer was amazing, this bass player was amazing, this guitar player was amazing. They could literally play almost anything you put in front of them. Now, the trick was me singing it, because I'm more of like a baritone alto. I don't have quite the range of an alto, and I'm more baritone, I guess you could say. And I was thrust into this situation where I suddenly became the lead singer for this fairly successful band. And I got to tell you, every time I went on stage, I about pooped myself. Not literally, but I couldn't believe that I was up on stage. And we weren't like a huge band. I mean, we didn't have any albums. We were a cover band. We played in bars. But suddenly I was in front of not a couple dozen people in church. I was out. There was some of the shows we played were like a couple hundred people, and there was drinking, which I was not really familiar with that much. I'd had a beer or so, but not like to this extent. I actually blew my mind, and I ended up blowing my voice out from the strain and just the absolute stress that I put myself through to measure up to this guy that I was pretending to be. Because frankly, I was not a frontman. I'd never been a frontman before in my life. And I felt like a pretender a lot of it. And that was when I started to notice my symptoms. I've said before, my guitar hand, I started noticing when I would do my warm-ups, just do your scales before you go out on stage. My hand felt like it was moving in slow motion, my fingering hand. And my strumming hand wasn't as fast as it used to be, and I used to get weird cramps in my hands and stuff. That was Parkinson's. Now, I think you put it all together, it made for one nasty sandwich of stress, genes, and just circumstance. I mean, I feel like the older I get, I feel like destiny. I hate to use the word destiny, but I feel like everything that happened kind of it was always going to happen. I was always going to work at that plant nursery because I got a job through my uncle. It fit me because I was kind of a loner, so I would just go out and water the plants and unload trucks and stuff. Obviously I can't change my gene pool. And then I was always going to leave that group. I could not stay there. My soul would have just been suffocated had I stayed there. Did I wish it happened a little bit differently? Absolutely. I wish things would not have been so heartbreaking to lose so many family and friends over something so stupid as where you go to church at. And then the band, I was always going to pursue music. Music's been in my soul since I've been a little kid. I used to air guitar in the living room. I had this plastic guitar, and I think there's a picture somewhere of me, jamming out. So I'd like to hear your theory. I mean, do you think that emotional stress can contribute to the onset of illness? I do. I've heard, I'll try to look it up. Jennifer Sullivan did a video about that. It's about two twins. One got Parkinson's and the other didn't. I'll put a link to her video in the description as well, so maybe you can check it out. I have to say that I think I always would have got Parkinson's based on the herbicide and genes, but I think the stress of losing my family and friends and the stress that I put on myself by being a front man in a band when I really did not know what the hell I was doing just exacerbated and sped up the process. Wouldn't have changed a thing. Would have always worked at that plant nursery. I grew up in that church. I had no choice about it. I would have always left it. I was always going to grow out of it. And I was always going to pursue a career in music. I do think my skateboarding throughout the years probably was able to maybe slow it down a little bit because it took so long to really fully manifest. I think because I was an active person, it probably took longer to just completely raise its ugly head. That's all I got. By the way, it's a beautiful day out here in St. Louis. It's a little cloudy. Hopefully you can see me. It's about 80 degrees out here, 78, something like that. Yeah, it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, getting ready to post this video. Got a ceiling fan installed on the deck so it kind of keeps the bugs off. But once again, I love hearing from you guys. I try to answer every email I get. I do read everything I get. I say that I answer 99% of it. Like if I get some comment that I don't understand or some email from somebody that's maybe a little hostile, I don't really respond to those. I don't want to get into that. But hope your day's going good, and hope your week will be even better than mine, which has turned out to be pretty freaking cool. That's all I got. Peace and love from the temperate, surprisingly temperate city of St. Louis.